on, guys? Welcome back to another beer review. A beer review that I have been dreading for a while. And people might say, why would you dread a beer review? And it is because the day has come where Alpine beers are now being bottled and brewed by Green Flash. This video might get a little long, and I apologize in advance. When I moved to San Diego, 4 years ago, I can't remember when exactly it was, but at some point I had a bottle of Pure Hoppiness, and that beer blew my fucking mind. I had no idea what Alpine was, who Alpine was, and when I had that beer, it just absolutely floored me. It was probably, at that point in my life, the best hoppy beer that I'd ever had. And started doing some research and reading, and I found out that Alpine was this tiny brew pub and brewery out in East County, San Diego, in a little city called Alpine, which I had no idea existed. And I decided to make the trip out there. And when I went out there, it was like an experience. I'd read so much about it. I looked up videos on YouTube about it. I'd done a bunch of just reading and research, and kind of like got myself like completely hyped up about it. And my first trip to Alpine was, I don't know, it's just one of those trips you never forget. If you're into good beer and you just have one of those places that you go for the first time and you have killer beer, it's just one of those things you don't forget it. Went with my wife. We sat in this tiny brew pub. There's literally like 15 tables maybe. People are just packed. We actually waited for food for a long time. But I got to they had Pure Hoppiness there, which was up until that point the only Alpine beer that I had. Got to have Duet that day, got to have Nelson that day, got to have, I think they had Keen Idea on draft that day, which was absolutely freaking amazing. This was like before the days of like Untappd, and like I didn't check beers in, I just drank them. And after that day when I left, I was like, Alpine is the best hoppy brewery in San Diego. They make the best beer, period. Better than Stone, better than anyone. And the more I drank local beer, the more it was just cemented in my mind that Pure Hoppiness was my favorite West Coast hoppy beer. Duet was one of my favorite, and Nelson was just like on a level of its own as far as like a rye spice, different kind of hopped IPA. So they've been my favorite. They've been my favorite San Diego brewery since I moved down here 4 years ago. Last year, the news came out that Green Flash acquired them, and at first when I heard the news, I was stoked on it because I'm like, this beer's so hard for us to get where I'm at in North County. Like there was a couple bottle shops that would get it, and it was like once every like 3 months, bottles would come in and they would just sell out instantly. One of those things where you'd walk in, hey, do you guys have any Alpine? Oh, we had some yesterday, but it sold out last night. So when I first heard the news about Green Flash acquiring them, I was like in my mind, I'm like, this is actually awesome because everywhere I go in San Diego, there's Green Flash beer. Every bar has kegs of it. Every bottle shop has 6-packs. They have bombers. It's everywhere. So I was like, if they're going to be brewing this beer and distributing, or at least distributing it for Alpine, I mean, this beer is going to be everywhere. It's going to be amazing. And one thing led to another, and Green Flash started brewing. They started brewing and kegging beers and sending beers out into the wild, so to speak. And last year I was at a little hole-in-the-wall tap room by my office, and I walked in and I saw that they had Nelson on tap, and I'm like, this is amazing. Never see that in North County. I mean, you could there's a couple places every now and again that would have it, but sat down, ordered a pint of it and got it, and I was like, what the fuck is this? And it wasn't Nelson. It was not the Nelson that I knew. They had Hoppy Birthday on draft, so I'm like, maybe this is just like an off keg, maybe something's weird. I had Hoppy Birthday after that, had a sip of it, and I'm like, no, this is not the Hoppy Birthday that I remember. And I kind of thought it was like me, and so I went on Beer Advocate, and I guess not to my surprise, there was an entire thread about the Green Flash Alpine merger, and people had started posting about how these beers were showing up around where they were at, and the beers sucked. They were nowhere near the original recipes. They didn't taste like Alpine beer. They didn't look like Alpine beer. Nothing about it was Alpine. And then I started noticing, like on Untappd, my buddies from outside of California were checking into Alpine beer, and there was a lot of, I don't get the hype. How come everyone says this is so good? And it was like constant reminder, like, hey, you're not drinking Alpine beer. You're drinking Green Flash brewed beer. and for whatever reason, they just couldn't get anything right. So I gave up on buying, like ordering Alpine beers on draft. I stopped doing it like 4 months ago. I'm like, this is dumb. I'm not doing it anymore. When my buddy Nathan was here over Labor Day, I took him out. Alpine just moved into a new brew pub, and I hadn't been there yet. I think they did that like back in June. I think it was June. I can't remember. But wanted to check out the new brew pub, and we went out there, and it's amazing out there. It's so awesome, so much bigger. There's a whole outdoor patio. There's going to be like a 20 tap beer thing out on the patio. Plus, there's beers, a huge tap area in the pub. They have a ton of guest beers. They have more house beers than they usually had at the old place. It's just so much bigger. And we had fresh Nelson on tap, and it was amazing. It was everything that I remembered. And I'm like, well, at least these guys still know how to brew beer, because the Green Flash versions of it are terrible. Drove over to the brewery, bought bottles. I think that Friday night when we got home, we opened like 4 bottles of Nelson, and we were just crushing them. Like, that's how good it was tasting. It was delicious. So I had seen in an email like a month or so ago that Green Flash was going to start brewing and bottling Alpine beer, and I kind of was bummed about it. And I forgot all about it until today, when I saw a photo online of a couple bottle shops that got these bottles in. And lo and behold, they are in the Green Flash Bomber. The label does say Alpine, but I will say the old Alpine beers, they said brewed and bottled by Alpine Beer Company in Alpine, California, and now they say brewed and bottled by Alpine Beer Company in San Diego, California. And I will say that this part right here is the worst part of everything. I don't know if you guys can read that, if my camera is going to focus, but this thing says best by March 21st, 2016. Today is September 30th, 2015. So they have decided to take it upon themselves to give their hoppy beers a 6-month shelf life, which is fucking mind-blowing to me. But I guess it is what it is. So I guess it's time to crack this thing open. I mean, Nelson, one of my favorite beers. I reviewed it probably 7 or 8 months ago. It was actually the first time I'd gotten a bottle of Nelson when I reviewed that beer. I'd always had it on draft at the pub. 7%. It's a Golden Rye India Pale Ale with Nelson hops. So I want to keep an open mind about this. I had also read that they weren't going to start bottling Green Flash versions of this until they got the recipes right. So I don't know what this is going to taste like. I don't have high hopes. I'm like sad right now. I never wanted this day to come that a Alpine labeled beer was in a Green Flash bottle, but such is life now, I guess. I can still drive down to Alpine if I want to get Alpine brewed beer, but this is what's going to be on the shelves, you guys. Everyone outside of California too that gets Green Flash distribution, this is what you guys will be getting. So hopefully it's close for your guys' sake. I guess the good thing for me, there's a huge hiss on that. Good thing for me is I can always make the trip out to Alpine to get their bottled beer if it doesn't work. So I cannot believe that we are already 8 minutes into this and I haven't even opened the bottle. Like I said, I'm sorry for going long, but I just wanted to kind of give a backstory of my experience with Alpine and how much I love them. So yeah, let's go ahead and see what this is all about. If it's anywhere near what it should be, I guess I'll be happy. I don't know. I don't want to give that too crazy aggressive of a pour. Put that there. So this actually looks much like Nelson from Alpine looks. Just that kind of golden Hefeweizen looking color. I'd have to go back and watch my first review, but I would say this is pretty spot on to what the color is supposed to be. Nice bright white head, about a finger of that when we poured it. Super, super tight, like fluffy head on that. But yeah, this beer's been sitting out. I grabbed it on the way home from work, so it's not super, super cold. And it is hazy, which is good. I remember this being hazy. This wasn't crystal clear like Pure Hoppiness and Duet were. So it's that hazy yellow. Yeah, looks like Nelson. So high hopes so far. Let's go ahead and stick our nose in it. Yeah, this just doesn't, it doesn't explode out of the glass like Nelson should. Alpine brewed Nelson, it's that huge, pungent, white grape Nelson hop. This is, it's there, but it's so faint. I get a lot of the rye spiciness on this, but it's like it's dank too. It's like almost like that cat pee thing. The Nelson hops are there, but it's not like that crazy pungent, really bright Nelson aroma that you're used to, unfortunately. It's there, but it's muted. Like I said, really, really spicy. The rye spiciness is there. There's dankness. There's a little bit of like citrus peel. I remember like regular Nelson being, there's like almost a green kind of herbaceous thing going. That's not here. So the nose is disappointing on this one. Let's go ahead and check out the taste. Cheers. No, that's it's still not right. That's disappointing to say the least. Super bitter, really spicy. Like regular Nelson, it's like it's so flavorful with the white grapes and like there's fruitiness, the white grape skin, those Nelson hops. It's just this is not it. I mean, it's there, but it's not that flavorful, pungent, white grapey, citrusy thing. Regular Nelson's got like this cool, like tropical fruity thing. This tastes like a beer that's been sitting on the shelf for a while. And for them to give this, for this bottle saying it's best by March, I would not even want to know what this is going to taste like in March. It's bitter, it's spicy, the rye spice is there. The bitterness lingers on your tongue. It's not like that clean, really clean, like spritzy kind of white winey thing that a lot of times fresh Nelson from Alpine is. It's not that fruity, green, awesome herbaceous thing. It's just, this is meh. I'm actually kind of glad that I opened this bottle and drank it, because I was going to buy extras and send them to buddies, but I wouldn't. I'm gonna wait until I go back down to Alpine again to get beers from there. This is exactly what was wrong with the beers before. The hops are there, but the flavor isn't there. The juiciness isn't there. The brightness isn't there. The other beer was just super pungent. It's not there. The nose is weak. The taste is weak. You know what's crazy? I actually have a bottle. It's a month old though. You know what? Hold on a second. We're gonna see something really quick. Might as well. Hold on one second. Sorry about that. I completely forgot I had one of these. So I had a bottle left over of Alpine Nelson. This is what the bottle should look like. This, not this. But yeah, I got this Labor Day weekend. So this beer is probably, let's call it 5 weeks old. So this isn't really fair. It's not fresh, but you can see on this one, where is it at? This says brewed and bottled by Alpine Beer Company in Alpine, California. I don't know if that's gonna, whatever. It says Alpine, California. So just real quick, for the hell of it, because there's no need to just continue on and complain about that beer. Can't believe I'm gonna dome two things in Nelson. But yeah, so I mean, you can see this one's the Alpine one. I mean, the colors are about the same, but this is more of like that white winey kind of thing. Carbonation's way more. This one, the Green Flash one's a little bit more hazy. This one still has that little bit of haziness, but it's like that awesome white wine looking just beer. It's got the same kind of bright white head. There wasn't a whole lot of head on this one, but the carbonation's great in this one, much more so than the Green Flash version one. But so the aroma on this one's still a little cold too. I just grabbed it out of the fridge. I totally forgot to do this, or I forgot I had this. Yeah, so this one, it's like jumping out of the. This is over a month old. And those Nelson hops are just like exploding out of there. just like white grape skin. This, you're smelling just a ton of like rye spiciness and like sweet malts. And this one's like grape skin. There's like grapefruit in there. It smells really like clean, really crisp. Even with age on it, this one smells better than that one. Yeah, I mean, this, you can tell this Nelson is over a month old, just from what I know Nelson's supposed to taste like. But the Nelson hops are much more flavorful in a 5-week-old bottle of Alpine Nelson than a fresh bottle of Green Flash Nelson. The rye spice is there, but the grapes, the white grapes, the white grape skin, it's vinous. You get like this tropical note. It's got a little bit of sweetness on it with the malts, but just so much more. There's so much more flavor packed into it than in this one. So I don't know. Yeah, that's just like bitter, grassy, malty, just whatever. And this is like vinous, grapey, a good amount of like that green kind of herbaceous note. The bitterness is so much more in this one than the Green Flash version. It's so much more just in your face bitter and not balanced. And this Alpine version is just clean. It's like spritzy. The bitterness doesn't like attack you anywhere. This one just lingers on your tongue. This one finishes really dry, like most Nelson beers do. Really clean, very crisp. So even at 5 weeks old, I would rather drink this beer than this beer. So I'm not grading this because it's not fresh, but in my last Nelson review, I gave that beer a 99, which I think 99 is what it used to be on Beer Advocate. For this one, I mean, it's in the 80s for me. It's not even an A beer anymore. It's a bummer. Someone who doesn't know any better might think it's amazing. I don't know. But for people who do know better, I mean, we know. And I don't want to make this sound like I'm some asshole, because I'm not. I'm not that pretentious dickhead when it comes to beer. But with beers of mine that are favorites, I hold them near and dear to my heart. I mean, this bottle was $11. I don't know what's up with that, because at the brew pub they're $5. $5 for a bottle, or $5.99, $6. So for this thing to travel, well, this was Green Flash brewed. So for this thing to travel 35 or 40 miles, it's going to get marked up over 100%. $12 after taxes or whatever it was. I bought that, and I bought the version of Duet to to review too, because that's the two that they had in the bottle shop next to me. It's $25 after taxes for 2 bottles of beer. Insane, crazy. So yeah, that's just harsh, bitter. It's not very balanced. It's just whatever. As far as the grade goes, if this Nelson is a 99 for me, this is like $87. It's not the same beer. It's crazy. So since this is what we're going to be getting, I'm hoping that they figure it out. I heard there was a Nelson hop shortage or an issue, and that kind of caused some problems. I don't know. I do know that ever since I've had Green Flash brewed Nelson, or Green Flash brewed any Alpine beer, it's not on par. So yeah, 87 on this one for me. Super disappointed. I'm really, really sad about it. So whatever, it is what it is. Sorry for such a long video. Seriously, I know I rambled. I know people probably don't give a shit about my my Alpine backstory, but I'm kind of glad I got to compare these two. Yeah, I'll take this Nelson all day, every day, even at 5 weeks old. So I'm out here, guys. Thanks for sticking around. if you made it to the end, if you guys have had the green flash brewed Nelson, let me know what you think. It's a bummer. Not what we know, not anything that anybody who's had Alpine Nelson would remember. It's sad to say this, but this is kind of a forgettable beer for me. And it's really a bummer that this will probably be available and I'll walk into stores and I'll see Nelson beer on the shelf or in the cooler and I'll be like, nope, don't want it. So hopefully they figure it out. Hopefully Pat and Sean, I don't know. I don't really know what to do. It's been almost 2 years, I think, and it's still not right. So I don't know. It is what it is. So I'm out of here, guys. Thanks as always for watching. And I'll see you later. Cheers.
Ever since I was younger, I was into video games.
Somebody like the Fuse so I can bring bad news to all these